Life is meant to have suffering, and that is okay because we're meant to remind one another of that. The more energy you're using to hold and push down your emotions, the more you're losing, and growth doesn't occur without some type of hardship. So you can change, I feel, or you can let the world force you to change. When you listen, you no longer look externally, you move internally. The happiness here doesn't mean that there's not happiness somewhere else. We can realize that what death is nothing more than the ability to create space. What expression lies beyond the breath? Can you excavate it enough to find your own truth and ultimately your own authenticity?
So in this episode, we spoke to Andrew Fischer. He is the co-founder of Somatic Breathwork with Stephen Jaggers. It was a very deep conversation, and he went quite deep with his explanation on what breathwork actually means to him, why he started this journey, and the intimacy and the intelligence of our bodies and how it carries the memory and it carries all the wisdom passed down from lineage, passed down from, the environment around us. And I think the fact that he brings it down to such a intimate relationship with the body is what I loved about this episode.
Awesome. And we also touched on certain things like how emotions can help athletic performance, more specifically talking about sensitivity. For example, a lot of people might think sensitivity in a man, can be a downfall. But what Andrew actually spoke about was, with his experience, especially as a physio for elite PGA golfers, was that a certain level of sensitivity can also bring a heightened awareness of athletic ability.
Yeah, it gives you an edge.
100% it does, yes. So without giving away too much, guys and girls, tune into this one, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, guys, on this week's episode of the Be Human podcast, we have got Andrew Fischer. And Andrew Fischer has a long journey so far, long story, starting back to when he was a physiotherapist on the PGA Tour, working with some of the top golfers in the world and athletes. And once achieving, I guess, a mountain of success in that world, he then stepped into the world of entrepreneurship and finding great success there also. Also, you've traveled the world, seen many places, just found out that you live in Australia. So you're now half Aussie.
I am.
Yeah, man. So look, and then I guess you ended up co-founding Somatic Release and Somatic Breathwork. And here you are today doing something totally different from what you were doing only a short moment ago. So
yeah,
thank you again, mate, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that, when we watch movies, we want to see good character development, but we want to watch that on a screen rather than go through the hardships and the starting over that real character development requires in life. And so to be able to do a multitude of things in your life is good character development. And I hope by the end of my life, it can be something I'm proud of. A movie worth watching, a book worth reading.
So true.
Awesome.
And you know what, when you read that list out, it's like you focus on what you have done, so the beginnings of the things, but on the undertone is like there was a death of a something, and that's the part that we don't focus on. We're like, wow, you've done so many things, but then, like you said, the development comes from something had to die each time something was birthed, each time you tried something different, each time, like even coming to this space. And people don't realize, like, when you are successful and you have created a name for yourself, the death is even harder because, you're letting go of something that's so like, it's an identity. It's a big identity for you. So how did
Very
you
much.
process through that?
Well, I think an understanding that death is very natural occurrence in our life. It happens all the time to every existing creature on this planet. Even our cells die. And when we can kind of come to a place where we recognize that death and honor that death, we can realize that what death is nothing more than the ability to create space. And once space is created for yourself, that space can be filled with whatever you want, for space is pregnant with potential. And your potential in the world will be vastly correlated to your ability to how much you're willing to let go of and how much you're willing to die and how much space you're willing to cultivate within yourself and within your life. So, and once you do it, it becomes easier. And
Yeah.
then you do it again and again and again. And then the pattern is that you're willing to actually let go and become detached of the things that you are known as your identity, to make space for something anew, to make space for something that will take you on a journey that you could have never even dreamt of.
So true.
So
Tell me
yeah,
one thing though, how did you
of
get to
course.
that place? Because, obviously I'm sure there's an innate intelligence and knowing within, but we get so conditioned out of it. So before this understanding, before this realization, how did you process through that first death? Or were you sort of already on track with this knowing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's different for everyone. I think that we have to realize that life is a opportunity to make our peace with death. And the sooner that we can do that, the better. And that's not just the end, death. That is the dying of yourself continuously, day in, day out, season after season. I mean, there's a lot of distractions in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the best things you can ever do is look to something that's much more ancient and much more intelligent than yourself. That's why we look to our mentors. But a great mentor is nature. And just to sit here, we're just coming out of winter here in Austin, Texas, and there's not a leaf on any tree in sight.
Mm.
And to just watch how nature goes through this death and rebirth so naturally, it gives us a lot of I believe it gives us a lot of comfort that that is the way it's meant to be. That's the way it's been for a long time. So for me, I look to nature to kind of find the ultimate wisdom of actually letting go and letting ourselves die. For me, I believe that you can either force it or you can allow life to deliver it. And life will deliver it. It um, could be ultimately a time where you go kicking and screaming. Sometimes the world will thrust something upon you. It will force you to change. So you can change, I feel, or you can let the world force you to change. So you can do it willingly, or you can do it in a forced manner. And I prefer the prior one. Um, but yeah, for me, if my specific like uh letting go was, and none of these things are easy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I believe that life will always strive for your ability to balance yourself, just like a tree's roots will grow this way in order to counterbalance its
Mm.
trunk that's going this way.
Mm-hmm.
And life will strive for growth. And growth doesn't occur without some type of hardship. And
Very
so for me,
Certainly.
I saw these hard things, I saw them as a test. And for me, when I get to the top of a mountain, I really do take time to enjoy the view.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
However, I want to desummit that mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
want to climb another mountain. And I think that's what's kind of been for me, this understanding that one, if the mountain was smooth, you wouldn't be able to climb it. So there's
Yeah.
a value in
Yeah.
having it actually being tough and arduous, and that journey upward is really worth it because you get the view, but the view's not where it stops.
Yeah.
There's a time to desummit that mountain and climb again and to see what else is on the horizon.
So
So for me, it's been a climbing of mountains.
in saying that, Andrew, like once you reached that mountain that you're talking about, as a physiotherapist, was it happiness that you were not finding at the top of that mountain? Is it something that you know, what do you think takes someone to want to change? Or because me personally, I'm the type of person that has never been able to sit in one spot for too long. And I love the feeling of freedom. And as I'm growing, and in the last 3 years really been doing breath work and meditation practices and working on that self-development side, I find myself more now than ever exactly what we're speaking about, being able to let go, kill and burn the old version, and keep rising, like let's say the phoenix from the ashes. But an understanding growth mindset comes through resistance first and some sort of hardship. But for someone now who is, say, at the pinnacle of their career, can it be not finding happiness a good reason for them to actually change what they're doing and be willing to let go of something they've worked so hard towards?
Well, everyone, I think, has a different agenda for life, and happiness is not always the end destination. And of course, in the United States, within our Constitution, or maybe it's the Declaration of Independence, I'm not sure, but ultimately within our creation documents, there is the pursuit of happiness, as it's not actually something you can attain. At least you can't hold on to it for very long. It's always the pursuit of it that actually gets us there. But I believe in abundance, and happiness here doesn't mean that there's not happiness somewhere else. To really fully feel a moment, to like be with someone, to slow down enough, to not be in a rush, to be where you're at and feel that and wait and be patient enough to know, like, and listen enough deep within inside yourself. Because I believe intuition is nothing more than an internal calling of a higher self that's moving you in a direction.
Yeah.
So when I'm on top of a mountain and I'm listening and I'm quiet and I'm patient and I'm listening to my inner self say, hey, it's actually time.
Yeah.
Time for something new. You
Mm.
can't hear that if you're too distracted.
Yeah.
Right? And our body knows, like our deeper understanding, our body from just I mean, we talk about the ancientness of this technology and how it's been passed on for thousands of years. Our nervous system is a network of all of our families, our trees, and it is our root system. And so it knows where we need to be and what's not in alignment with us. I think that popular Spain scope of emotions study is going around, if you've heard about it, and ultimately they were able to figure out what was emanating from human beings and what kind of emotions were they were measuring the frequency in which these emotions were coming out. And authenticity was the highest vibration of any
heard about this.
emotion, far more powerful than love. And what that tells me is that when you are not in alignment, meaning something is not true to you, and what you're saying, you don't believe it anymore, because that happens.
Yes, it does.
And your thoughts and your words and your actions are no longer lining up. Then your intuition, this deeper knowing, has the ability to wake you and shake you and say, hey, it's time to move on to something else.
Yeah. Wow. That was beautiful.
Mm.
My question to you now, you've gone from working physically on the body as a physiotherapist.
Yeah.
And so obviously you were already very connected to the body and, what the body's ability is and capacity is. Now, how did you go to a deeper level of the body itself What made you go that layer below and sort of look at the nervous system and how the body stores and is a, printout of pretty much memory? Your body's like I always say it's a printout. So it's good to watch someone's body because it will give you so much more information than what they say. And we really don't focus on that. We're really so tuned to just listening to what someone is saying, but most of the communication, most of what their true self is all about is so loaded in their body. So what got you to go to that level deeper? What gave you that insight?
Yeah. I stopped talking so much.
Wow.
If I have a lot of videos. I vlogged my entire life on YouTube for a year. I have a lot of videos and captured my life for a good portion of it. And when I go back and watch those videos, I can't help but just see a man attempting to just force something on someone. I constantly was in this state of speaking.
Wow.
And the latter part of my life has been a state of listening. And with that, the things that I did were no longer external. They became internal. Yes, I was a physiotherapist. I worked on a lot of superficial modalities.
Yeah.
Massage therapy, Graston, ART, active release. And I also found the reflection of that in the way that I preferred to move. I preferred to choose international travel, going to 94 countries and seeing all these different countries. When you listen, you no longer look externally, you move internally. And so now I am exploring the 94 countries of my own universe, of my own world, connecting to a country called emotions, country of sadness, a country of fear, a country of anxiety, a country of bliss and joy. And so realizing that, that's why I love breathwork so much. I find it is the travel agent
Yes.
to my inner universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that to answer your question, it's because I slowed down, and when you slow down, you feel it more.
That's 100% true. I guess I find myself, I catch myself now when I've been talking too much. And usually when I'm talking too much, the noise up here, especially, is very loud. And your focus and what you're trying to achieve in your day-to-day life feels like it moves further and further away from you as well. And I guess that's why when we wake up in the morning, our daily practices consist of breath work, meditation, and cold water exposure. And that brings that stillness and silence back within the body and the mind. And it's funny because when we were kids, if someone spoke to us and said to us, listen more than you speak, or it's okay to be silent. I remember growing up as a kid, I was very, very shy, and I liked to listen. I didn't like to speak a lot. I would sit in a room, let's say, full of people and take in everything that someone was saying. But society showed that there was, like, to me, that I had some sort of problem.
Yeah.
Doing that, I didn't fit in. I was, that people called it social anxiety or whatnot, by not being able to speak. And I didn't like going to the nightclubs. It was too noisy. Like, it didn't sit right within. I liked being in a small group of friends, doing something like, watching a movie or just saying, what I mean? Something that's a lot more mellow. And I think, growing up, society shows us the opposite. And which in turn, takes us away from ourselves, and we end up, I ended up being at a pivotal moment in my life where I had this anxiety and depression and all these things coming on. So really, like, detaches you from the higher intelligence, the higher power, and intuition. Right now, I'm starting to listen to my intuition. So now I trust my intuition. Where, if I was growing up 15, 16, 17 years old, and if someone said to me, hey, listen to your feeling, listen to your thoughts, because it's guiding you to the right way or the right path or the path that suits me, I would have achieved things I'm trying to achieve today, I think, with a lot less force. You know what I
But
mean?
I think that you have to go down that journey though, because I remember like coming from an Indian background, the culture is already a little bit. So in order to like be someone, I had to be extremely loud and I had to be heard and I had to be pushy. And I was like, here I am. And I also noticed that I had lost communication between my body and my mind, right? So it served me for a certain point. And then I started to, when it didn't start to serve, then you start to look inside. And then I started to notice how I was betraying my body each time I said yes to something I didn't want to. Right. So the quieter I got to feel the subtleness of the messaging. And then I started to notice, you know, like, wow, like there wasn't power in being loud. You know, there wasn't power in just constantly being aggressive and all that. And I could understand then how actually it had a hold of me because I was just reactive. I was never in control.
Yeah.
And then the more I actually exactly turned it in, became silent, listened, honored my body first. I always have a saying, unless I give it to myself, I will not ask first. I will first give that to myself, then I have the right to ask. So if you feel betrayed, I always say to my clients, well, have you been betraying yourself? Every time you want to not go to a party and you say no, that's a betrayal. Your body tells you, it contracts. So, you know, like those are the things now that I feel that imagine how long people have gone against their body, right? And in your breathwork sessions, like they're so intimate, the way you look at someone, right? Like those videos, you can't exactly, you don't have to speak in that. You don't have to prove anything. There's no convincing. There's authentic love and connection, and that speaks volumes. And you can see when the body is allowed to be the body and it's allowed to express what reveals itself. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that journey started with you guys and how you got into the breath work and what that means to you?
Yeah. I think your ability to be able to hold something is really important. And to be able to hold something is to have range, to be able to have gone to the depths of what that person is encountering. You mentioned like, yeah, I didn't always have an opportunity to be quiet. And that's great because you cultivated range within yourself. There's value in being able to command your voice and be loud.
Yeah.
There's also value in being able to turn it off and to be where the person's at and be soft, to match them, to mirror them. In that session, all I'm doing is just joining them on where they're at in that moment, if only for a moment. Because I don't stay. And it's good that I don't stay. Because that they know that then they can do it on their own. And they don't need me. They never needed me. But just like when you go to the gym, there are weights that are oftentimes pretty heavy. It's hard to lift off. And sometimes we need a spotter.
Yeah.
To lift heavier weight. And from that, we grow stronger and we build a larger capacity within ourselves. The more we have within ourselves, the more we can hold. And when we can hold a lot, we are no longer reactive.
Yeah.
We are responsible. We're able to respond. Response able. And so that's really the difference is someone who's reactive is on their last nerve. Their nervous system is at full capacity.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not take anything more. Even the slightest thing will set them off because they don't have any more space within themselves to hold it and to carry it. And so our breath work is somatic based, very much so. but even more so, it focuses on the body and not just the breath. The breath is a driving force, but what lies beyond the breath is what somatic breathwork is all about. What expression lies beyond the breath? Can you excavate it enough to find your own truth and ultimately your own authenticity? And so there's an aspect of moving beyond just breath. If someone's in, let's say, going through an emotion, I've been to plenty of breathwork sessions where someone's starting to emote, and a breathwork practitioner starts to cue the breath. And the breath is of zero importance once an expression has come to the surface. It is now time to be with that emotion fully. Because that
Absolutely.
emotion is just chosen you as a home for a moment until it moves to a completes its cycle. And it can only take sometimes a short period of time. And yet we will find human beings suppressing something that would have taken 2 minutes to feel it in its totality, but suppressed it for decades.
So
We've all been victims of that, haven't we?
Yeah.
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 Well, what I have sort of seen here is that when we talk about breath work and somatic work here, we have faced a lot of resistance from men, okay, especially athletic men, men who sort of feel like they're a little bit masculine.
Those alpha style men.
Right?
Sure.
And I want to know what's your experience, because it's almost like at the start when we started this journey, because we've had our own experience with the modality and other modalities, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we've seen the benefits. And I always say to someone, it's not how good you are at breath work at the, at the session, it's how my life is playing out now. That's how I test it. It's not that I'm a good meditator. It's like, hey, have I shifted? Has there been growth? Am I dealing with life on a completely different manner? Am I reactive or responsive? What is that? Those are the things you do. However, when we sort of started this, we have found that a lot women are into it. It's a lot easier for women to sort of, be curious about it and try it. But a lot of men are like, haha, you're just blowing, and it's so funny. And and we also explain to them, no, this is actually going to be beneficial for sports, for careers that have, a lot of stress involved. You want to be a high performance, breath work, somatic work, energy work. It's not just for the people that just want to go off and do events and, have a, like just a
release after
a release
yeah.
and a trauma release. But there's another angle to breath work and energy work and somatic work, is that it can actually help you with performance and enhancement and growth. I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of work is, out there about like trauma release and emotions and stuff. But can you also talk about how, hey, normal people doing normal jobs, living normal lives can also benefit? It doesn't have to be, with the intention, hey, whatever shows up, no problem, but it also has a benefit for another area of your life.
Yeah. Well, we're all humans, right? And we all go through something hard. And if there's a human out there listening to this that hasn't gone through something hard, you will.
Yeah.
It is meant to be that way. Life is meant to have suffering. And that is okay, because we're meant to remind one another of that. And so when I do possibly have may say in this particular case, we're designating as an alpha male in my class. Well, one, I'm wondering if they're ready to be there or not, and what reason they did come if they're not quite yet ready. The other is that I have gone through my own journey. I was a performance coach.
Yeah.
So to know performance, and like maybe just even my accolades alone would be enough for someone to trust in my judgment that this could be beneficial for them because I've gone there. They know it's true. And so when I say that this will be beneficial to just your nervous system and the performance of your ability to build resiliency within your nervous system and take more of a scientific approach to it, or a more clinical approach,
Yeah.
they trust that. They
Yeah.
trust it. I also know that emotions are not segregated to only women. Emotions are for both of us.
Which guys think the
And
opposite.
so an alpha doesn't feel probably comfortable to maybe cry or shed some tears. That is an opportunity to showcase to them that it is okay to shed tears and to feel that. And oftentimes in my intro, I'm quite emotional.
Mm.
I tell a story. I connect to a part of myself that gives me permission to feel. And so by giving myself permission, I have given every single one of the individuals in that room about to experience a session, I've given them permission.
Okay, I'm
And
gonna
I have,
ask you something, Andrew. Sorry to
of
interrupt
course,
you.
no worries.
Just because it's on that point. So he's a fight coach, right? So what people normally say, if we, because he used to be the same and said, I don't cry, I'm quite emotionally strong. And I used to say to him, brother, you have not experienced that strength yet unless you've cried.
I put it this way. I'm a very emotional person. I'm very connected to myself since I was a kid. I thought strength was feeling this emotion come up and be able to stop it from showing externally. I thought that was me being tough. I love this conversation we're having, Andrew, because you're allowing me, giving me permission to accept how I am at the moment. Because when we do our events, I get emotional in the intro. When I reflect back on something to do with myself, I'm that connected to a memory, a journey. I tear up and I express myself. And I leave the events going, fuck, maybe try to not get that deep and try to get through the intro without crying next time. But just from what you've said now, I'm very grateful for it, mate, because we got a couple of events we're running this week and coming. And I'm going to allow myself to feel those emotions and not try to hold them back.
Yeah, so he used to be one of those that says, you know, like, no, I'm really good emotionally because I don't cry. And I was like, no, you're good emotionally when you cry, you know. And so he's had a beautiful journey and he had that release and it was incredible. However, you know, men do ask us, like, does it make you weaker? You know, once I'm emotional, especially fighters, because they're thinking they have to, you know, keep that emotion in check. So that's a real conversation that happens where they go, hey, does it weaken you? Does it make you, like, you know, they use a different term, which I can't repeat. Does it, you know, does it make you more, does it demasculate you? You know, now you're going to cry about everything. And that's a real valuable question. So what is your thoughts on that?
Ultimately, you have to understand that everything in this life is energy. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, your job is self-care. And your job is to really understand how energy works. People who make lots of money understand and see money as energy, and they understand the language of money, and they understand the exchange of money, and they can use it to their advantage. They can allow money to make money for them rather than their time and their laborious efforts. So once you learn that energy is everything, you start to maybe take a audit on your own energy. And so if you are a fighter or a performance or any athlete for that matter that is looking to enhance their performance, you have got to be very cognizant of your energy and where it's going. And in massage therapy, we call this parasitic tension. And what this is the ability to push something down becomes almost like a parasite.
Wow.
Because you're constantly in tension. It's cyclical. tension always. I would relate it. I would relate it to if you had a beach ball and you're tossing it around. It's as light as air. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
relaxed. Push that and submerge that and push it down underwater.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't care how strong you are.
Mm.
Let's see how long you can hold that down. So ultimately, when you are no longer in this, let's call it parasitic tension. It can be called a multitude of things depending on what modality you're utilizing. But let's just use this from an energy standpoint. The more energy you're using to hold and push down your emotions, the more you're losing that you could be going towards
Love it.
your sensitivity and your alertness. And if
Yes.
anything,
Yeah.
what sensitivity is sensitivity is a fullness and an awareness of your senses.
Mm.
And you want to have all of your senses during fighting or any kind of athlete. An athlete needs to have his wits or her wits about them.
Yes.
And they need to be fully in their senses and to feel those sensations. That's what sensitivity is. Put somebody who's numb to those things in the wilderness, and if they're fighting for their life, they won't even notice that a branch breaks behind them. But
Yeah.
someone who's very sensitive is on edge and is very aware. Eyesight, taste, smell,
Yeah.
hearing, anything can like click that off. You want all of your senses to be at their heightened state, and you want to cultivate a sensitivity. They're like, oh, I might be too sensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're like using the word pussy or something.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be looked at. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
looked at in a certain
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of these sensations and the sensitivity. When you start to realize that it's a huge advantage
That's
to
it.
your opponents,
Yeah.
you start to actually break another barrier of leveling up within performance, within athletics,
Yeah.
within your life.
This is such a great conversation. Such a great conversation, because even the word sensitivity is looked upon weak.
Yeah.
Right? But the way you have described the actual word itself and what it really means, it means
Yeah.
you're actually got an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
right.
it's
It's an
great.
advantage. Every superhero that all these young kids grew up wanting to be like,
Yeah.
they've had a sense that has become heightened, and that has become their superpower. Spider-Man's a perfect example, right? He has these spidey senses. Ultimately, what Spider-Man has is that sixth sense of his like nervous system, being able to feel things that like kind of before they're happening, almost that like retro causality. He can like know it's coming, and something behind him, like, and this happens to us. There's plenty of times where we're standing here, and if we're listening and we're not distracted, we're, especially if we're like by ourselves, we'll notice someone like coming up on us and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
we'll feel them behind us.
Mm.
Not necessarily if we're talking to someone and engaged and distracted, but
Yeah.
if we're in our own sensitivity, we'll start to feel someone behind us. That is not a sense of the five that we're usually accustomed to, like smell,
Yeah.
taste, touch, hearing, but it's essentially your nervous system and your ability to have a emanating range around you that can feel when things are close by to keep you safe.
Yeah. And also now they've proven that your body actually signals your brain more than your brain signals your body. And that when information is coming in, it's actually processed by your body before your thinking gets involved. Like I think one third of a second or something prior to. So I think the great thing about all this is that people are starting to, yes, on a physical level, the body's, you know, it's important to look after that. But I think now they are, as much as we sort of, you know, highlight the mind, which is so important, but I think we sort of went away from the body's intelligence and we gave the mind all the work to do. Like someone has an emotional feeling, we think about it. We process it on a thought level. I think slowly with this work and guys like you, we're bringing the body back, and we're not, because a lot of people in the spiritual field too, they separate the body and it's always out here, you know, it's always out of the body, and it's like, think about all this stuff. And it's so beautiful to see that it's through the body. It's through the body. It's first through the body. And I think that's really, really important. And to trust, because we've trusted the mind so much, and that's great. But now we're coming back into trusting the body too. And, you know, working with the heart and knowing what your body feels like, knowing what breath feels like through your body, like really, really being intimate with the body for the first time for a lot of people. I feel these events and what you guys do is like bringing intimacy back to the self, right? And it's so beautiful because we've denied the body for so long, and then we wonder why we have disease and we have pain, and whenever the body's communicating, we have a sore shoulder, we're like, oh fuck, my shoulder. When it's like, hold on, the body is actually trying to get you to pay attention. It's trying to say, hey guys, look here, right? But instead of like looking at that communication and saying thank you because you're working, we're damning it. So what can you talk to us about that as well? Like how the body communicates and how we should change our relationship to what it's actually telling us and how it communicates.
Joey, did you want to say something really quick though? I know you did have something right there.
No, I was just trying to say, that we neglect our bodies. And I know especially, I've been playing sports my whole life and coaching fighters from, boxing, kickboxing and kickboxing and boxing, kickboxing and MMA. We definitely, I injured myself. I had a herniated L5S1. I've done my rotator, pretty sure now. And my knee, and just, we have this thing where I think especially for men, we're all worried about how people perceive us, right? So we want to be this tough person that doesn't feel anything. But when it is time to listen to the body, like Aisha said, it's too late. Most of the time, it's when you've actually injured yourself and something has let go. So no, I think it's very important, like sitting with your breath and communicating again with your body and the intelligence. It's constantly telling us things, that we got to stop making noise and start listening.
And just have a different vocab to us, like like we say we are sick. I'm sick, and I've changed that with my kids. I'm like, they say I'm upgrading. So I'm upgrading, so I'm like, you're never sick. You're never sick.
That's right. Yeah, ultimately, the body is the most present place. When it's injured, that's only an opportunity to slow you down. It will thrust you over into rest and relaxation.
Yeah.
Because you've been so far over here. And vice versa. If you get over here on the shadow side of just too much rest and relaxation, it becomes like laziness and lethargicness. And you have this anxiety that you have to start doing something. So you can find yourself becoming like in this yo-yo back and forth. But ultimately what health is the ability to choose what state you desire to be in. It's the ability to want to be in rest and relaxation when you want to, not when you're forced into it. It's the ability to be over in activation when you need to get something done. Animals are incredible at this. They'll hang out under a tree, but when it's time to hunt, they'll spring into action and do what they need to do, and then they'll rest again. It's the ability, health, it's the ability to choose. And I think breathwork is great because it takes you through the sympathetic and also a parasympathetic state. It takes you through both, at least our breathwork does. And ultimately, I believe that to really experience your life and to really be there with someone, you must be present. And if you're going to be present with someone, you can first start to learn to be present with yourself. And the body is the most present place. The mind is what robs you of presence.
Yes.
The mind is what takes you to the future, takes you to the past, allows worry, anxiety to creep in. The mind is not okay with where you're at. It is the body that has made its peace with where you're at that moment. It's the mind that perpetually pushes you to be somewhere else other than where you are not. And finding comfortability in where you are is one of the greatest gifts that you can find within yourself. So ultimately, at Somatic, we always say, it is not necessarily about letting it go. It's actually the opposite. It's about whether or not you're willing to let it in.
Wow.
And that's when then you can let it deep. And only then can you let it through. The body is where it's at. It's so present. Can you be fully present? Means can you be fully with your body and be okay with that?
Yeah.
And the more you slow down, injuries do this for us. The more you slow down, the more you will find yourself being in your body.
Mm. And I guess when people do get injured, that's when you see the conflict.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because then, you know, I've got a friend that's just gone through like a broken ankle. Love her, but I saw the conflict. You know, like I want to go back to my life and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
body's just like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
No, it's
And
because that in that body, it's winter. There's no
yes,
playing outside. I
yeah.
broke my ankle as well. That's how I know. And so I still to this day do exercises to strengthen my calves, to strengthen my ankle, even though it was a decade ago.
Ow.
But
Yeah.
what it has done is it has created an incredible knowledge base within myself to understand the foot mechanics, and how I can honor how the foot functions. It has
So true.
educated me. My injury has educated me. And that's oftentimes what our shoulder injuries are meant to do. They're meant to actually make us more aware
Yeah.
of how we function in the world.
Yeah, it's so true. I had a knee issue, and like a doctor was like suggesting to have an operation. The moment that came into my awareness, I was like, wow, I've now got to provide the environment so the knee can do what it needs to do. So then again, calf exercises, you know, strengthening my side glutes. I became so much, hey, what can I provide? What environment can I provide? Because I'm not doubting the body. What environment can I provide my knee so that it can do what it does best?
Yeah. That's
You
right.
know, and that was a massive thing for me too, to even like have a different understanding of the body, trusting my body, saying knees fine, I just got to provide the environment.
That's right.
You know? And so, you know, what do you find people get out of your breathwork sessions at the end of it when you look at initially the benefits, and then what do you see people change over time, like say 3 months, a year after? What is the biggest growth that you've seen people that have been on this journey with you guys, especially with your kind of breath work? What have been the benefits?
Ultimately, you can use that analogy that we just used. An injury to an area causes you to focus and bring awareness around that issue. And awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we use trauma a lot this day and age, but it really is just a Greek word for wound. And ultimately, an emotional wound. I mean, it can be psychological, but ultimately, let's just use an emotional wound an example. You have brought awareness around that wounding.
Mm.
And now there's an opportunity to educate yourself, just as you did with your physical body, and learning that your knee was not necessarily the issue, but the environment surrounding the knee, the quad, strengthening the hamstrings, the calf, anterior tibialis, whatever it may be. Ultimately, we find the same things around that wound.
Mm.
Maybe we need to talk with our mom.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to actually have closure with that person that really hurt us. Maybe we need to find closure within ourselves, and we don't even need that conversation at all. It brings awareness to people's forefront. And I think that's what the breathwork does more than anything else. I think in a somatic breathwork session, there is not a lot of guiding. There is some cueing, and there is some somatic hands-on touch, but the default of all of our practitioners is to give space.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that in the very beginning. Space gives an opportunity for awareness to come to the forefront.
Mm.
When someone is speaking, they bulldoze you. It means they're not listening. And in a breathwork session, a practitioner should be the greatest listener in that room. They trust you. They looked for you to hold that container. And you must showcase that you've been where they're going, and that place doesn't scare you. Just why it's so important to be vulnerable with people before you start a session. It shows them that you're someone they can trust.
Yeah.
vulnerability breeds trust within each other. When we see someone emoting or going through something hard, we trust them more. We've seen more of them than most people have. We've
Yeah.
seen the rawness that is to be human. We've seen it. And once we've seen it, we now can let down a little bit of a guard that this person is someone that I actually can hand over the reins to and trust them enough to hold that container. And within our session, awareness is such a key component, giving space to allow for them to have their own unique experience, unique to them. It's one of the reasons we don't cue breath, really. We don't even cue rhythmic breathing on a specific cadence because no one's the same. We allow every individual to drop into their own unique breath, just as they have their own unique life. And just as they have their own unique truth and their own unique authenticity, even if they have forgotten, there's no one like them. Give them space and they will figure out
Yeah.
who they are.
Oh, that's huge.
I'm getting
Yeah.
so much out.
Yeah.
I'm actually pumped for our events that is coming up.
Yeah.
So much like knowledge
What a
and
beautiful philosophy, though.
oh,
You know
great.
what? You're the first person, honestly, that has really been so different in the way you guys do it, because I'm
Your
like,
approach is
wow,
different. Yeah.
so different, so different. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful to actually allow someone to have that space for them to figure it out themselves. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And another thing about this whole thing is that you're also creating a beautiful community, like, especially, we've been through COVID and everything was about isolation, and, society's sort of like very individualized and, me, I get. And I think it's just amazing to see beautiful communities now that are connecting,
Yeah.
not just based on, business and, oh, hey, I like tennis and whatever, but
Sure.
on that very vulnerable level where you guys get to see each other's like rawest moments, where,
Yes.
there's no filters, your hair's messy, you might have snot coming down your face, but
Yeah.
you so love that person. I know when I see a child and it's like that authenticity that you actually fall in love with, that vulnerability. I get it now, right? With an animal too. The only other time I felt that with a human is in breathwork sessions. And, when I'm walking down the street, if I saw someone with snot, I'd be like, oh, But when I'm there, I'm like in their face and I could be touching them, and it's just absolute love. I have no thought of anything but you are so beautiful in this moment. I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
Right? It's the only other time,
Yeah.
because it's just absolute them.
We have an ability to do that in every interaction of our lives. The more that you hold these breathwork containers, the more you will be able to tap into it in your own life. I have the ability to do that in every encounter. Every encounter I've had with an individual has now become a sacred container.
Wow.
Every single one. An opportunity to share a new adapted pattern, something that I discovered for myself that really helped me. And I'll shout that from the rooftops. But ultimately, an opportunity to listen to what that person is really experiencing in their life. Like, how much can you attune to someone? Like tuning in to them. In a breathwork session, yes, you can do it. They've let their guard down and you're able to like move in on that person and join them. But can you do it
Yeah.
in every encounter in your life? You mentioned community. Yes, we are here in breathwork to connect to ourselves, to connect to our body. But we do that so that we can then connect to others. That's how we build community. That's what matters. Why do we connect with ourselves? We connect with ourselves so that we can connect to others, so that we can build something much larger and greater than ourselves. And that's what, for me, community is all about. That's what a Be Human movement is all about.
Yes.
connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Love it.
Nearly towards the end of our session, Andrew. I wanted to I remember you was mentioning to Aisha not long ago, you guys are working on international practitioner courses for
Yes,
somatic.
Yeah.
this is
I appreciate that. A little drop on
Yeah,
somatic. I like it. I
of course,
appreciate it.
of course.
I always want to bring value to anyone who might be listening. I think this is a value. Somatic has
Yeah,
become one of the largest practitionerships in the world. We have 1,200 practitioners worldwide now in 2.5 years. It showcases the value and the need for this work. Our database is launching in 2 weeks, which is really cool. You'll be able to find all the practitioners near you. We have quite a few in Melbourne. So what's really cool is you'll be able to connect with them. You'll be able to like bring them in house. You'll be able to like learn from them. We do offer practitionerships. We offer 4 every year that are in person.
yeah,
Mhm.
And they're like a 4-day experience, and we go through all like the applied skills of what it is to learn how to be a breathwork practitioner. But we also talk about the meta skills, like the skills of presencing and attuning, these lifelong skills that transcend just breathwork sessions, but they actually become who you are. They alter your paradigm and the way you see the world. And so the meta skills are so important. And we're excited to like bring that to all the practitioners that are going to be participating with us in 2024 and joining this beautiful movement. We also have an online program, and that's how a lot of our Australia practitioners have come
yeah.
into our community. And that's ultimately a 12-week program. It's a
Okay.
12-week cohort, and we go week by week and
Yeah.
we break it down, and we have a bigger understanding of what it is to show up as a somatic breathwork practitioner. And really break down. We have an entire breakdown. We have micronized it in such a beautiful, intuitive way, because art is so intuitive, but the ability to actually put something with that, because
Yeah.
there's the science as well.
Yeah.
Can you marry art and science? And I think that the human body is a amalgamation of art and science. And
100%.
so when you're dealing with a human, your program should reflect that humanity. And I think our program does a really good job at showing the art and also the science of a practitionership.
Beautiful.
Mate, I think I'm gonna be doing that 12-week course.
Yeah.
We'd
100%.
love to have you for sure.
Yeah, we're
100%.
definitely
Yeah.
interested. Also,
100%.
do you reckon you guys would ever come here and do like a little tour or some
Yeah.
events in Australia? We never get anyone. We're so far away.
Yeah, we ultimately thought we would do that, but what we realized is that we are so overwhelmed. We have a team of 18, and we're so overwhelmed. We have so much on our plate right now, which is great. We want to really pour into our practitioners. We want to pour into level 2 and the advancement and the continuing education of our practitioners. But what we really care about is our practitioners' ability to bring this to the world in a
Yeah.
very like safe but also accessible way. And
Yep.
so ultimately, as the CEO, I'm trying to step into a place where I can make those partnerships and those relationships with certain gyms or fitness locations or wellness retreats
Perfect.
that
Yeah.
would have breath work, somatic breathwork in particular, on the roster, which would then allow our practitioners to have a home right off the bat.
Love it.
So what I love about the database is I think we'll start to see a few people, like, let's just say a practitioners in Melbourne that didn't even know about each other. They'll come together and they'll form their own little kind of thing.
Yeah.
They'll show up to your, it's a really cool way to realize that you don't have to do it alone.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
So
Agree.
Yes.
No.
no plans for Australia just yet, but as we grow and as Stephen and I start to realize that there is a dying process to even somatic, and learning to let go of our current roles of teaching it so that we can make space for others to step in and teach, will allow us to actually grow much further beyond Stephen and I could ever take it. It is a handing over of this modality to others, where
Mm.
it should always be. It is a gift that was given to him and I and we have the honor of regifting it to others, and they will regift it, and they will regift it. And so when we start to get to that place, I'm sure that we will start to look at more of an international tour.
Yeah.
Because now there'll be more humans involved, and we'll be able to be more places than just one.
Well, I've always wanted to go to Texas. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you'd love Austin. I promise you, it's really cool. I've
Yeah.
been to Melbourne. It's actually stunning. Austin's got really cool human beings. I think that's the
Yeah,
draw for
good
me
hub.
is yeah, to move to places that have great community, that have great humans. And
Yeah.
Austin has been an incredible city for connection and community.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, really feel
Yeah.
cool to the way you guys serve. And it actually started off from Stephen doing all those talks and just those little snippets,
Yeah.
because it just gets,
Yeah.
there's so many modalities, so many facilitators, but to really get to know someone's thinking and the way they are behind it is
Yes.
crucial. And I think that's what makes you guys so different. That's what stood out for me.
Yeah.
Was that you
Thank
guys
you.
really, really have that essence. You guys know, and you have an embodiment of it. And I think,
Yeah.
that what was
Thank
beautiful, it came from that space. It wasn't breath work and then you went backwards. I felt like it emerged from that sort of understanding from
Yeah.
within. So I
Yeah.
really, really, really connected and sort of honed in on you guys, because I love that just of who you are. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Millie in the
I
background
love
right there.
dogs.
Yeah, for sure. She's a cutie.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that was where Somatic was. Ultimately, these expression pieces that you're speaking about, and
Mhm.
ultimately, the talking head pieces for education, right? Showing the education and the art
Yes.
of this practice to show like to speak about what we do and then to showcase it was a beautiful thing. I think that ultimately, and when it comes to social media, you should use posts in the front end of social media to show off what you do to others, to explain and to use that as a evangelistic way to get your philosophies out to the world. But really, what no one sees is the back end of our social media. We spend an exorbitant amount of time really holding space in the DMs. And so I always say that the front of social media is where you can show off, but the back end is where you can show up.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
ultimately, that's where we've built a lot of our connections and communities in those DMs. And I'm excited to see as Somatic has progressed, as it's grown, our content will change as well. And so we're going through a little bit of a winter, if you will, with our content. And I'm excited for what spring will bring because it will be more true to what Somatic is now. So
Beautiful.
I'm excited to show some new content on the horizon.
Beautiful. And like us as Be Human, we definitely want to sort of incorporate your style of breath work.
100%, yeah.
It really feels more heart-centered for me, and it's alignment for us too. So we'll definitely
Especially
get on board.
after this
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
bring the science into it, and coming from really a athletic background yourself as well, it really aligns
Yeah.
well with what
Yeah.
we're doing and our
Yeah.
community. Just before
I
we
love
wrap
that.
up as well, Andrew, you mentioned you've got, a team of 18 now, and you've grown quickly in about 2.5 years. So
We have.
we find ourselves in the same kind of point of our lives now with the Be Human movement
Mhm.
as well. We're growing organically and we're moving very quickly and rapidly.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice or tips you can explain to us that helps you? Because this will be hard to contain all this and have capacity for it
Yeah.
all. So what do
Yes.
you do to find yourself not,
Yeah.
losing a handle on everything?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, a movement is much different than actually the startup of a company. Usually a group of individuals coming together to create something, to build something, is a company with the understanding that the energy exchange will predominantly be money. Whereas a movement is when you're not seeking customers, but customers are seeking you. People are coming to you because you've resonated with them on some level and they want something from you. And so it's a calling. It's a call to action for you to step up and build this beautiful movement. And with that, you'll have to kind of figure out that dance, that art, if you will, of how do you become still this incredible heart-centered movement, but also a business.
Mm.
And so for me, I look at it like the vehicle that drives heart-centeredness to the world is the movement, and the company is the engine. And you
Yes.
have to learn how to build it, build a company so that it can sustain and take the movement further than you ever could if you were walking it or pulling it with a cart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brother, mate, you just fucking smashed my heart. That's exactly what we've been planning from the start.
I'm glad.
Appreciate you so
Yeah,
much, Andrew.
of course. It's my
Oh,
pleasure.
that was an incredible, like,
Yeah, that was
seriously, yeah, that was incredible. And it actually took me deeper and
Yeah.
more of an understanding of how you guys actually facilitate. It was beautiful because I now know, like, oh, that's another aspect that I can add, which will bond me, that whole creating that space and stuff. That was beautiful. And I really feel like that is so much added value to us. So thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you so much for doing what you do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for embodying what you do, actually, and, you know, showing up the way you guys
Exactly.
do. So
Showing
really,
up.
really appreciate it, because for us too, we look at you and we say, yep, you know, we like that path and we sort of want to
Yeah.
go down that road too. So I really, really appreciate you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the DMs, because you
of course.
do show up, man. You do show up.
Yeah.
Like, videos are
Well,
not legit.
I
Yeah.
I attempt to show up as much as I can now. CEO responsibilities pull me differently, but it was Somatic's account that's even the tougher one. We've grown so
wow.
drastically with 200,000 followers now. I mean, there was a point in time where we were gaining 10,000 followers a day.
Wow.
There was something resonating around just holding space for someone,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
the language of emotion that everyone in the world speaks. They didn't know what it was, but they just recognized it.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful, and a lot of our clips went very viral. But like I said, there is a changing of the guard with that. Those curiosity pieces once held a lot of value, but they're not authentic to Somatic anymore. Although that's a very important piece of what we do, it's time to show more of the intimacies. It's time to go deeper and to show more vulnerabilities within Somatic. And with that, I think the world will say yes once again.
100%. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Mate. Yeah, thank you. We'd love to wrap this up, and well, we could talk for ages, but I promise we'll
worries.
find a way to Texas sometime soon.
We'd love that.
It's been in our trajectory, it's in our hearts, and we're really resonating with the place. So I'm sure we'll catch up in person sometime soon.
Yeah. We'd be honored to have Somatic Breathwork as the official breathwork of Be Human.
Love it.
Mate, sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds
Love
awesome.
it.
All right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you
Right.
so
Of
much.
course. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Appreciate you.
time and all your wisdom.
Of course.
Thank you.
Anytime. I'm always here. Just
And we put all the links.
Catch me in the DMs.
Yes, you are the best. Honestly, I can legit say that you're the best at DM.
Yeah,
You know,
good at sliding into
Thanks.
those DMs.
and the quick joke too, right? When he first, like, he was going for a bit of a stage, and I was already doing my practice with breathwork and stuff. And he came to me and he was like, you know, I've got anxiety. And I was like, I questioned him. I just said, have you? Show me where it is, you know? And it sort of just interrupted his, I said, how do you know? And he said, the doctor told me. I said, how does he know? So it was all just getting him to question it, right? And then I said, all right, give me 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you do what you got to do, right? Take what you got to take, whatever. Anyway, so I said, you got to start breath work. And I was like, listen, I'm going to help you, but if you don't help yourself, I'm out. So I used to get him to send me video footage, right, of him doing breath work, because I'm like, this is not my responsibility. If you're not going to do it, I'm not in either. So anyway, he'd go to the gym, and he's got the security camera on his phone, and he'd tape himself. That the best thing was, one day he did it so well, he knocked himself.
Mate, I just was like, I like this breathwork shit. I go, it's going to help me hold my breath when I'm getting naked choke put on me or something. So I held my breath for as long as I went, and I was a bit competitive. Next thing you know, I'm like, why is my neck so sore? And I've got my eyes closed. I'm like, man, my neck is really sore. I open my eyes and I'm on the ground. I got up. I was like, oh, I thought someone's hit me over the head with something. Straight away, jump on my phone, see the CCTV footage. I go, this is cool. And I saved it straight away. I saved it straight away.
So he did.
I was so calm that if someone was choking me, I would have just been smiling. No problem.
Yeah.
No pain.
Yeah.
It was 3 years ago he started,
Yeah.
and his life has changed, Andrew, and that's why we do what we did.
Mm.
It's changed our lives, and he never stopped. That 2 weeks, that's it. He never went back to the doctors, never took anything. He just, and this is why we just, and every aspect, father, brand, husband, coach,
Yeah.
everything, like same for me, and it's like, yeah, this is what people, and look how we have access to this. This is within us. And so we were like, God, we got to, we started doing that for that. So yeah, it's a little funny story on this guy.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
So thank you so much.
Of course. We'll be in touch.
No worries,
Dad.
brother.
Okay. All right,
Thanks, bye.
Hey guys, it's Zuzu and Aish from Be Human Podcast. Firstly, we'd like to say thank you. We're very grateful for the support, ongoing support. Our podcast is one of our first passions. That's where Be Human really started growing its legs.
True.
Before the events and courses and other things that we have done. So we would love if you could please subscribe and continue the support, because it will help us bring on bigger guests and more interesting conversations, and just basically help us have that presence online there on YouTube and on our Spotify platforms as well. So I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for the support.
Thanks, guys.